The emergency session alarm echoed through the Galactic Preservation Council chambers, like the dying screams of 1,000 bureaucrats. High Arbiter Krell Nox burst through the ornate doors with all the grace of a falling asteroid, his 6 arms flailing in patterns that roughly translated to, "What fresh hell is this now?" in Thylorian body language. "Please tell me," he gasped, still catching his breath from sprinting down 17 levels of council corridors, "that the emergency alert was a malfunction. Please tell me we're not actually dealing with a Category 5 incident on a primitive world." Secretary Blix Tam, a slender Zephyrian with translucent blue skin and oversized cranium, consulted her floating datapad with the kind of meticulous attention that suggested she'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. "High Arbiter. The incident occurred 72 standard hours ago on Research Station Omega-12. A juvenile human, designation Judy Morrow, interfered with a Category 5 predator control operation." Interfered how, exactly? She saved the target. The silence that followed could have powered a small planet. Krell Nox's primary set of hands gripped his ceremonial staff, while his secondary arms began the involuntary stress weaving that indicated a Thylorian was approximately 3 seconds from either enlightenment or a complete nervous breakdown. "She saved," he repeated slowly. "A Category 5 predator." "Correct, High Arbiter. A human. A member of the species we've classified as... let me see here." He gestured to his aide. Assistant Velcor, a nervous Manthari with compound eyes that never seemed to focus on any one thing, scrambled through holographic files. "Category 3 aggressive omnivores with concerning technological tendencies, sir." "Right. So a Category 3 aggressive omnivore saved a Category 5 predator. From us, the Galactic Preservation Council." "That appears to be accurate, sir." Krell Nox closed all 6 of his eyes and began counting in Old Thylorian. He made it to 73 before his curiosity overcame his desire to pretend this wasn't happening. "What kind of Category 5 predator are we talking about? Please tell me it's something small and relatively harmless. A Venusian death whisker, perhaps. Or maybe a juvenile plasma bear." Blix Tam's skin shifted to a deeper shade of blue, which in Zephyrian body language meant approximately the same thing as a human turning pale. "It's a Terran wolf, sir. Specifically, a young female of approximately 4 months' age." "A Terran wolf." Krell Nox's voice had reached that dangerous quiet level that made his staff check their evacuation routes. "From Earth. The human's home planet." "Yes, sir." "The same Earth that we've had under observation for potential intervention due to its abundance of Category 4 and Category 5 predators." "The very same, sir." "And this human child decided to save one of these apex predators from our perfectly legitimate conservation efforts." "Technically, sir, it wasn't conservation. It was a culling operation." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Krell Nox's ceremonial robes rustled as his stress weaving intensified. "A culling operation on the human's home planet, of their native fauna. The operation was authorized under Emergency Protocol 77 Alpha, sir. The wolf pack in question had been demonstrating concerning pack intelligence levels and coordinated hunting strategies that exceeded acceptable parameters for Category 5 fauna. So we decided to cull them. Standard procedure, sir. On Earth, it seemed prudent at the time, sir." Krell Nox opened his eyes and fixed Blix Tam with the kind of stare usually reserved for cosmic phenomena that defied all known laws of physics. "Secretary Blix, are you familiar with the human concept of irony?" "I'm afraid not, sir." "It's when a situation becomes so absurdly contradictory that it transcends normal comprehension and becomes almost poetic in its impossibility." He gestured broadly with 4 arms while the other 2 maintained their death grip on his staff. "We are currently living in an irony so profound that I suspect it might actually be visible from orbit." Velcor cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, there's more." "Of course there is. Please, by all means, continue destroying what remains of my sanity. The human child didn't just save the wolf cub, sir. The cub has bonded with her." "Bonded?" "Yes, sir. Refuses to leave her vicinity. Our behavioral specialists classify it as extreme pack adoption behavior. The wolf cub appears to have designated the human as its new family unit." Krell Knox stared at his aide. A Category 5 predator has adopted a Category 3 predator as family. Essentially, yes, sir. And the human? According to our surveillance, our observational data, the human appears equally attached. She's been providing food, shelter, and protection for the wolf cub, despite her species' supposed lack of interspecies nurturing instincts. Supposed lack. Krell Knox's voice had taken on the tone of someone whose worldview was performing impressive acrobatics. Tell me, Velcor, when was the last time our xenobiology department updated their files on human behavior? Approximately 47 standard years ago, sir. 47 years. The High Arbiter's stress weaving had evolved into what his species called the pattern of existential questioning. And in those 47 years, how many direct behavioral studies have we conducted on humans in their natural environment? Velcor consulted his files with increasing desperation. None, sir. Direct observation of Category 3 or higher predator species is considered too dangerous for field research teams. So, we've been making decisions about human behavior based on 47-year-old data collected from a safe distance. That is technically accurate, sir. And now we have a human child who has not only interfered with our operations, but has somehow convinced a Category 5 predator to adopt her as pack family. It would appear so, sir. Krell Knox set down his ceremonial staff and rubbed his primary temples with his secondary hands while his tertiary arms continued their stress weaving. Secretary Blix, I want a full report on this incident. Every detail, every recorded interaction, every piece of surveillance data we have. About that, sir. Blix-Tam's skin had progressed to a shade of blue normally associated with deep ocean trenches. There's been a complication with our surveillance operations. What kind of complication? The human appears to be aware of our monitoring. The pattern of existential questioning abruptly shifted to the pattern of impending doom. Aware how? She's been waving at our concealed observation drones, sir. And yesterday she left what appears to be a handwritten note attached to Surveillance Unit 7. What did the note say? Hello, I know you're watching. Would you like to meet Luna? She's very friendly once you get to know her. Krell Knox felt his entire worldview perform a triple somersault with a half-twist. Luna? Apparently that's what she's named the wolf cub, sir. She named it. Yes, sir. A Category 5 predator. She gave it a name. A human name, actually. Luna means moon in their primitive linguistic systems. So, a Category 3 predator has named a Category 5 predator after a celestial body, formed a family bond with it, and is now extending invitations to the Galactic Preservation Council to come meet her new pet. That appears to be an accurate summary, sir. Krell Knox stood up, all 8 feet of him unfolding like a cosmic monument to bureaucratic bewilderment. Velcor, contact the Department of Xenobiology. I want a complete review of our human classification protocols. Sir? And Secretary Blix, I want you to personally oversee the preparation of a diplomatic contact team. A diplomatic team, sir? For a Category 3 predator? For a species that has just demonstrated capabilities we didn't know they possessed. Krell Knox began pacing, his ceremonial robes swishing dramatically. A human child has successfully domesticated a Category 5 predator, detected our most advanced surveillance technology, and extended a formal invitation for first contact. Either our classification system is catastrophically flawed, or we're dealing with a species far more complex than we realized. What should I tell the contact team, sir? Tell them to bring gifts. Something tells me we're about to learn that humans are full of surprises. Blix-Tam's skin had returned to its normal translucent blue, though her expression remained deeply concerned. Sir, what if this is an isolated incident? What if this particular human is an anomaly? Krell Knox paused in his pacing and fixed her with a look that had evolved beyond stress weaving into something, approaching philosophical acceptance. Secretary Blix, in my 400 years of galactic service, I've learned that when something seems impossible, the universe usually responds by making it happen twice. Sir? I'm willing to bet this Judy Morrow isn't the only human capable of befriending apex predators. I suspect we're about to learn that everything we think we know about Earth's dominant species is completely wrong. A new voice interrupted from the chamber's communications system. Hi Arbiter, this is Communications Specialist Rick Snall. We're receiving a transmission from Research Station Omega-12. From our team? No, sir. From the human child. The silence that followed was so profound it seemed to have physical weight. Krell Knox's stress weaving stopped entirely, replaced by the kind of stillness that indicated a Thylorian's mind was processing information beyond its normal capacity. She's contacting us directly? Yes, sir. The transmission is crude but functional. She appears to have constructed a communication device from salvaged observation equipment. Of course she has. Krell Knox's voice carried the tone of someone whose expectations had given up and gone home. Put her through. The chamber's main display activated, showing a young human female with brown hair and earnest brown eyes. Behind her, clearly visible, was a small gray wolf cub that was currently engaged in what appeared to be playing with a stick. Hello, the human said, her voice carrying across the vastness of space with startling clarity. My name is Sarah, and this is Luna. I think we need to talk. Krell Knox stared at the screen. The human child looked completely at ease, despite the fact that she was addressing beings she'd never seen and had no reason to trust. The wolf cub, meanwhile, had abandoned its stick and was now investigating the camera with obvious curiosity. I know you've been watching us, Sarah continued, and I know you tried to hurt Luna's family, but I don't think you understand what you were doing. Luna isn't dangerous. She's just a baby who lost her pack. She needed help, so I helped her. The wolf cub chose that moment to return to Sarah's side and settle down with its head on her lap. The gesture was so clearly affectionate that it made Krell Knox question everything he thought he knew about predator behavior. I'd like to meet you, Sarah said simply. I think there are things you need to know about Earth. About wolves. About humans. And I think Luna would like to meet you too, once she gets used to the idea. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Well, Krell Knox said finally, I believe we have our answer about whether this is an isolated incident. Sir? Any species that produces children capable of intergalactic diplomacy probably has a few more surprises in store for us. He turned to his staff with an expression that had evolved beyond stress into something approaching anticipation. Prepare the ship. We're going to Earth. All of us, sir? All of us. Something tells me this is going to require the full attention of the Galactic Preservation Council. As his staff scrambled to prepare for the most unusual diplomatic mission in galactic history, Krell Knox found himself almost looking forward to meeting this remarkable human child and her equally remarkable companion. After all, if a Category 3 predator could successfully domesticate a Category 5 predator, what else might humans be capable of? The Council transport ship Diplomatic Necessity descended through Earth's atmosphere with all the subtle grace of a falling mountain. Krell Knox gripped his ceremonial staff with 4 hands while his remaining 2 attempted to maintain some semblance of dignity as the vessel shuddered through atmospheric entry. Remind me again why we're personally conducting first contact with a primitive world, he asked, his voice strained as another bout of turbulence rattled his internal organs. Captain Zix Vol, a pragmatic Nexarian with silver scales and absolutely no patience for bureaucratic nonsense, didn't look up from her navigation displays. Because, High Arbiter, you insisted that any species capable of taming apex predators deserved the full attention of the Council. Your exact words were, prepare the ship, we're going to Earth. I may have been hasty. You think? The transport settled onto the designated landing coordinates with a final, bone-jarring thump that sent Krell Knox's ceremonial headdress sliding sideways. Through the viewports, he could see a remarkably ordinary landscape, rolling hills, scattered trees, and what appeared to be a small structure that humans had apparently designated as a cabin. Sensors are detecting 2 life forms in the immediate vicinity, reported Science Officer Drixnall, a methodical Corvani whose 4 eyes allowed her to monitor multiple displays simultaneously. 1 human juvenile, 1 canine predator. Both appear to be waiting for us. Waiting? The human is sitting on what appears to be a wooden platform attached to the dwelling. The predator is lying beside her. Neither shows signs of distress or aggressive intent. Krell Knox peered through the viewport and immediately spotted them. Judy Morrow looked exactly as she had in the transmission, relaxed and completely unintimidated by the massive alien ship that had just landed in her backyard. The wolf cub, Luna, was indeed lying beside her, occasionally lifting her head to study the newcomers with obvious curiosity. "She's not afraid," Velcor observed, his compound eyes whirring as they focused on the scene outside. "Sir, according to our behavioral models, primitive species should exhibit flight responses when confronted with advanced technology." "Yes, well, our behavioral models seem to need some significant revision," Krell Knox muttered. "Secretary Blix, are the diplomatic protocols ready?" Blix Tam consulted her floating datapad with the kind of intense concentration usually reserved for diffusing antimatter bombs. "All standard first contact procedures are prepared, sir. We have translation matrices, cultural gift exchanges, and preliminary technological assessments ready for deployment." "And if she asks us why we tried to kill her pet?" "The official position is that we were conducting necessary ecological management to prevent overpopulation of dangerous fauna." "The honest position?" "We're bureaucrats who made assumptions based on outdated data and nearly committed ecological genocide because we were too scared to actually study the species we were supposedly protecting." Krell Knox appreciated Blix Tam's refreshing honesty, even if it made his job considerably more complicated. "Right. Let's go with the honest position. It's novel, but it might work." The exit ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss that sounded unnecessarily dramatic in the peaceful woodland setting. Krell Knox stepped onto Earth soil for the first time in his 400-year career, followed by his diplomatic entourage. The planet's gravity felt surprisingly comfortable, and the air carried scents that reminded him of his homeworld's forests. Sarah stood up as they approached, and Luna rose beside her, the wolf cub's tail wagging in what Krell Knox's suddenly revised understanding of predator behavior suggested was friendly greeting rather than pre-attack positioning. "Hello?" Sarah said simply, her voice carrying clearly across the small distance between them. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would." Krell Knox found himself momentarily speechless. The human child showed no fear, no aggression, no signs of the primitive territorial responses his xenobiology texts had promised. Instead, she seemed genuinely pleased to see them. "Hello, Judy Morrow," he managed, his translation matrix rendering his words into human speech patterns. "I am High Arbiter Krell Knox of the Galactic Preservation Council. We received your invitation." "Just Sarah is fine," she smiled, a facial expression that Krell Knox was beginning to realize indicated friendliness rather than threat display. "And this is Luna. She wanted to meet you too." The wolf cub approached without hesitation, sniffing curiously at Krell Knox's robes. Every instinct his species had developed over millions of years screamed that he should retreat from the apex predator. Instead, he found himself standing perfectly still as Luna investigated him with obvious interest. "She likes you," Sarah observed. "She's usually more cautious with strangers." "We were told that your species fears predators," Velcor said, his translator struggling with the concept he was trying to express. Sarah laughed, a sound that caused several of the council members to flinch before they realized it indicated amusement rather than aggression. "Fear them? Why would I fear Luna? She's just a baby who needed help." "But she is a Category 5 predator," Blix Tam protested, consulting her datapad, "capable of inflicting significant damage to smaller life forms." "So are humans," Sarah pointed out reasonably. "So are most of you, I'd guess. Being capable of causing harm doesn't mean you will cause harm." Krell Knox felt his worldview perform another impressive acrobatic routine. "Our data suggests that predators are inherently dangerous and require careful management." "Your data might be wrong," Sarah said gently. "Luna lost her family when your people killed them. She was alone, scared, and hungry. I couldn't just leave her to die. Even though she could potentially harm you? She could, theoretically, but she won't." We're pack now. She protects me, and I protect her. Luna chose that moment to demonstrate this bond by moving to sit between Sarah and the alien visitors, not aggressively, but clearly positioning herself as a guardian. The gesture was so obviously protective rather than threatening that even Krell-Knox's instincts recognized it as such. Remarkable, breathed Science Officer Drixnall. The Predator has adopted defensive rather than offensive positioning. It's treating the human as a pack member to be protected. She, Sarah corrected firmly. Luna is a she, not an it. And yes, we take care of each other. How? Velcor asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his nervousness. How did you establish this bond? Sarah looked thoughtful. I fed her when she was hungry. I kept her warm when she was cold. I played with her when she was lonely. I guess the same way you'd make friends with anyone. You made friends, Krell-Knox repeated slowly. With a Category 5 predator. I made friends with Luna, Sarah corrected. I don't know what a Category 5 predator is, but Luna is just Luna. Captain Zixval, who had been silently observing the interaction, stepped forward. Sarah, may I ask you something? Why did you contact us? Why did you want to meet us? Sarah's expression became more serious. Because you were going to kill more wolves. More families like Luna's. And I don't think you understood what you were doing. We were managing dangerous fauna populations, Blix-Tam said, though her tone suggested she was beginning to doubt this explanation herself. You were killing families, Sarah said simply. Luna's parents, her brothers and sisters. They weren't dangerous. They were just living their lives, hunting for food, taking care of their babies, just like you probably do. The silence that followed was profound. Krell-Knox looked around at his team and saw the same realization dawning on all their faces. They had been operating under assumptions that were not just wrong, but catastrophically misguided. What do you want us to do? He asked finally. Stop, Sarah said immediately. Stop killing animals because you're afraid of them. If you want to study Earth's wildlife, study them properly. Learn about them. Understand them. Don't just assume they're dangerous because they're predators. And if they are dangerous? Sarah scratched Luna behind the ears, causing the wolf cub to lean into the affection with obvious pleasure. Then figure out why. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they're protecting their territory. Maybe they're scared. There are always reasons, and there are usually solutions that don't involve killing. Dr. Knox Finn, the Council's xenobiology specialist, had been running continuous scans during the conversation. High Arbiter, the readings are extraordinary. The bond between the human and the predator shows neurochemical markers consistent with family relationships. The predator's stress indicators are actually lower in the human's presence than they would be with its own species. Lower stress? Krell-Knox asked. The human appears to be a more effective caregiver than the predator's natural pack would be. Sarah overheard this and grinned. Luna's special. She's smarter than most wolves, more curious, more social. I think that's why she bonded with me so easily. We're both a little different from our own species. Different how? Blix-Tam asked, her scientific curiosity finally overcoming her bureaucratic caution. I've always been better with animals than with people, Sarah admitted. Animals are honest. They don't lie or pretend to be something they're not. If they like you, they show it. If they don't, they show that too. It's simpler. And Luna? Luna's more social than most wolves. She likes meeting new beings, learning new things. She's curious about everything. Sarah looked at the assembled aliens with a thoughtful expression. Actually, she'd probably love to visit your ship. She's never seen anything like it. The suggestion caused visible panic among several council members. Velcor's compound eyes began whirring frantically, and Blix-Tam's skin shifted to a shade of blue that indicated extreme stress. A Category 5 predator, Velcor said weakly, aboard a council vessel. A friend, Sarah corrected again, who's curious about new places. Krell-Knox looked at Luna, who was indeed watching their ship with obvious interest, her tail wagging slowly as she studied the alien technology. The wolf cub looked less like a dangerous predator, and more like an enthusiastic child eager to explore new places. "Why not?" he said finally, causing his entire team to stare at him in horror. "If we're going to revise our understanding of Earth's fauna, we might as well do it properly." "Sir?" Blixtam's voice had risen several octaves. "Secretary Blix, how many times in our history have we had the opportunity to study predator behavior in a controlled, safe environment?" "Never, sir, because it's considered too dangerous." "And how many times have we had a predator that's been domesticated by another intelligent species?" "Also never, sir." "Then this is a unique research opportunity." Krell Knox made his decision with the kind of reckless abandon that had either made careers or ended them throughout galactic history. "Sarah, we would be honored to have you and Luna visit our ship." Sarah's face lit up with genuine excitement. "Really? Luna's going to love this. She's never been off the ground before." As they walked toward the ship, Luna trotting happily beside Sarah while the alien diplomatic team followed in various states of fascination and terror, Krell Knox reflected on how thoroughly this mission had destroyed everything he thought he knew about interspecies relations. A human child had taught him more about diplomacy in one afternoon than he'd learned in 4 centuries of bureaucratic service. She demonstrated that understanding was more powerful than fear, that friendship could bridge any species gap, and that sometimes the most important scientific discoveries came from simply asking, why, instead of making assumptions. "High Arbiter," Captain Zix Vol said quietly as they reached the ship. "What are we going to tell the Council about this?" Krell Knox watched Sarah explaining various Earth concepts to Luna, who listened with the kind of focused attention that suggested genuine intelligence. "We're going to tell them the truth. That we've been wrong about almost everything, and that we have a lot to learn from both humans and their planet. And the Predator Management Program is hereby suspended, pending a complete review of our classification systems." He paused as Luna spotted something interesting inside the ship, and began investigating with Sarah's encouraging support. "I suspect we're going to discover that the galaxy is far more friendly than we ever imagined." As they entered the ship together, an alien diplomatic team, a human child, and a wolf cub who had somehow become the catalyst for rewriting interspecies relations, Krell Knox couldn't help but smile. The interior of the diplomatic necessity proved to be a source of endless fascination for Luna. The wolf cub immediately began investigating every surface, scent, and sound with the kind of thorough enthusiasm that made the council members simultaneously nervous and impressed. Sarah followed close behind, providing a running commentary that seemed to help Luna understand what she was experiencing. "These are control panels," Sarah explained, guiding Luna away from some particularly sensitive equipment. "They help the ship fly through space, and this," she gestured to a holographic display, "shows maps of different star systems." Luna approached the hologram cautiously, then tentatively reached out with one paw to touch the projected image. When her paw passed through the light without effect, she looked back at Sarah with an expression that clearly asked for explanation. "It's just light," Sarah said gently. "Like a rainbow, but made by machines instead of sunlight and water." Dr. Knoxfin was frantically taking readings throughout this exchange. "Remarkable," he muttered, his scanning devices whirring continuously. "The predator is demonstrating problem-solving behavior, spatial reasoning, and what appears to be abstract concept formation. These cognitive levels are far beyond our projections for non-sapient fauna." "Maybe your projections were wrong," Sarah suggested politely. "Animals are usually smarter than people think. They just think differently than we do." "How so?" Blixtam asked, her scientific curiosity finally overcoming her bureaucratic training. Sarah considered this while Luna discovered the ship's artificial gravity field and began experimentally jumping to test how it differed from Earth's gravity. "Well, humans think with words mostly. We plan things out, make lists, worry about the future. Animals think with feelings, I guess, and instincts. They're really good at understanding what's happening right now and what it means. And this allows them to adapt to new environments rapidly." "Luna adapted to living with me in about a day," Sarah confirmed. "She figured out which spaces were hers, which were mine, which we shared. She learned my schedule, my habits, even my moods. I think she understands me better than most humans do. Luna, as if sensing she was being discussed, abandoned her gravity experiments and returned to Sarah's side, sitting down and leaning against her leg with obvious affection. Captain Zixvol approached cautiously. Sarah, may I ask how you knew to contact us? Most primitive. I mean, most developing civilizations aren't aware of galactic civilization. Oh, that, Sarah said casually. I've been tracking your observation patterns for months. Your stealth technology is good, but not perfect. There were too many coincidences, too many strange equipment failures near wildlife areas. And after Luna's family was killed, I started finding pieces of advanced technology near the attack sites. The council members exchanged alarmed glances. Velkor's compound eyes whirred frantically as he processed this information. You've been conducting counter-surveillance operations against council reconnaissance? I prefer to think of it as figuring out who was hurting my planet's animals and why, Sarah replied with the kind of diplomatic deflection that would have impressed seasoned ambassadors. Once I understood you were watching, I started watching back. Your communication frequencies aren't encrypted against primitive technology because you probably didn't think primitive species could detect them. Could you understand our communications? Blixtam asked weakly. Not at first. But patterns are patterns, and math is universal. I'm pretty good with math and computers. It took a few weeks, but I eventually figured out enough to send a basic message. Krell felt his respect for human intelligence undergo another major revision. Sarah, are you typical of human cognitive capabilities? Sarah laughed, the sound no longer causing the council members to flinch. Oh no, I'm definitely weird by human standards. Most humans my age are more interested in social media and fashion than xenobiology and radio astronomy. But humans are adaptable. Give us a problem we're interested in, and we'll usually find a way to solve it. Even if it requires learning entirely new scientific disciplines. Especially then. Humans love puzzles, and the harder the puzzle, the more satisfying it is to solve. Dr. Knox Finn looked up from his instruments with an expression of scientific revelation. High Arbiter, we may have significantly underestimated human technological potential. If a single juvenile can reverse engineer our communication protocols and develop counter-surveillance techniques, then adult humans are probably capable of much more than we've given them credit for. Krell finished. Sarah, how much do other humans know about our presence? Officially? Nothing. Unofficially. There are probably a dozen amateur astronomers and radio hobbyists who've noticed anomalies. Humans are curious. When we see something that doesn't fit normal patterns, we investigate. The question is whether you want to make contact on your terms, or wait for humans to figure it out on their own. What would you recommend? Sarah considered this seriously, while Luna explored a fascinating section of wall that apparently smelled like 17 different alien homeworlds. Humans respond better to honest communication than to secrecy. If you're here to help protect Earth's environment, most humans would support that. If you're here to study us, most scientists would be excited to cooperate. But if you keep hiding and making decisions about our planet without talking to us. She shrugged. Humans don't like being left out of decisions that affect them. And if we reveal that we've been conducting unauthorized operations on your planet? Apologize. Explain why you thought it was necessary, and commit to doing better in the future. Humans are usually pretty forgiving if they believe you're genuinely trying to make things right. Krell exchanged glances with his team. In less than 2 hours, a human child had demonstrated superior diplomatic instincts, advanced technological skills, successful interspecies communication, and now she was essentially offering to facilitate first contact between two civilizations. Sarah, he said carefully, would you be willing to help us establish proper diplomatic relations with your species? Only if you promise to stop killing Earth's animals without talking to humans first, she replied immediately. And only if Luna can be part of the process. She's the reason we're all here, and she should get to see what comes next. Luna, hearing her name, approached Krell and sat down directly in front of him. The wolf cub looked up at the massive alien with what could only be described as expectant curiosity, as if she understood that important decisions were being made and wanted to participate. "I think," Krelnox said slowly, reaching out with one tentative hand, to gently touch Luna's head, "that arrangement would be acceptable to all parties involved." Luna's tail began wagging at the contact, and she leaned into the alien's touch with obvious pleasure. The sight of a Category 5 predator actively seeking affection from a Galactic Council representative would have been impossible to imagine just hours earlier. "High Arbiter," Captain Zixval said quietly. "This is going to require significant changes to our operational protocols." "Yes," Krelnox agreed, continuing to pet Luna while the wolf cub practically purred with contentment. "I suspect we're going to need entirely new departments. Interspecies relations, cooperative xenobiology, and possibly a division of things we were completely wrong about." Blixtam was frantically making notes on her datapad. "Sir, the administrative requirements alone will be staggering. We'll need to review every classification system, every conservation protocol, every surveillance operation currently in progress." "Good," Krelnox said firmly. "It's about time we started doing our job properly instead of hiding behind outdated assumptions and bureaucratic cowardice." Sarah smiled at this declaration. "I think Luna would make an excellent consultant for your new departments. She's got great instincts about which beings are trustworthy and which ones aren't." As if to demonstrate this point, Luna left Krelnox and approached Dr. Knox Finn, who had been maintaining a respectful distance throughout the visit. The wolf cub sniffed him carefully, then sat down and offered him her paw in what was clearly a gesture of friendship. "Extraordinary," Dr. Knox Finn breathed, gently shaking the offered paw. "She's evaluating each individual separately rather than treating us as a homogeneous group. The social intelligence required for such discrimination." "She's a good judge of character," Sarah agreed. "Animals usually are. They don't get distracted by appearances or titles or species differences. They just pay attention to whether someone means well or not. Sometimes the most important discoveries came from the most unexpected sources, and sometimes saving one small life could change an entire galaxy's perspective on what it meant to be civilized."